Ancient evidence of modern tech, the forgotten inventions of the ancients. Time travel evidence, or hidden history. The Egyptian light bulb relief, Dendera temple's forbidden electricity. Welcome back. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and this is the Time series. In this segment, we're traveling into ancient Egypt, not just as tourists, but as investigators. Because inside one of its lesser discussed temples lies a carving that doesn't belong to the past. It belongs to the future. And if you take it seriously, it doesn't just suggest that time is nonlinear. It suggests that our overstanding of technological history is built on a lie of omission. Let's begin with the site, the Temple of Hathor, located in Dendera, Egypt. A beautiful and well-preserved structure in Upper Egypt, this temple was a place of deep worship, ritual, and cosmological alignment. But hidden in one of its crypts, deep underground, far from sunlight and covered in sootless, intricately carved stone, is a relief that researchers still argue about today. It's been dubbed the Dendera light bulb. Here's what it shows. A large, elongated bulb-shaped object with a tube-like design. Inside the bulb is a curling serpent-like figure, appearing almost identical to a filament. The cord of the serpent leads to a box-like apparatus, which many interpret as a power source. Around the bulb, priests or gods are shown holding and stabilizing the device. On top of the box, a multi-directional rod resembling a grounding mechanism or electromagnetic coil. When electrical engineers first saw this carving, not as Egyptologists, but as scientists, they immediately recognized the form. It closely mirrors an experimental Crookes tube or an early arc lamp, used in the 1800s and early 1900s before the commercial development of the incandescent bulb. Now here's where it gets strange. Mainstream archaeologists claim the carving is symbolic, that it represents the myth of the lotus flower, with the serpent representing energy, rebirth, or the path of life. They say the figures are priests offering energy to the gods, but that interpretation relies heavily on poetic metaphor, not physics. What they cannot explain is why there are no soot marks on the ceilings of the chambers where the carvings are found, why the lighting in these tombs could not have been sustained with torches, oil lamps, or open flame due to oxygen depletion, why this specific depiction includes mechanical-looking elements like insulators, terminals, and coils. Let's pause there. This carving is not in a public square. It's not ceremonial or abstract. It's tucked away in an underground crypt where light would have been required just to carve the wall. There is no evidence of fire, soot, or chemical burn. No wall torch grooves, just stone, and what looks like a power system. Now let's flip the question. What if this isn't symbolic at all? What if it's a diagram? Some researchers believe ancient Egyptians had access to electricity, not just through naturally occurring static or batteries, like the Baghdad battery theory, but through transferred or preserved technology. They may not have invented it themselves, but inherited it, from a prior civilization, or even from contact with travelers beyond their timeline. The late Erich von Däniken and other ancient astronaut theorists propose that the Dendera bulb is either a piece of remembered technology from a forgotten epoch, pre-dynastic or Atlantean, a reproduction of something seen, either from a visitor or a traveler, or an embedded time artifact, slipped backward through the dimensional veil. It's worth noting that Egypt, like many ancient civilizations, held time as cyclical, not linear. The idea that future and past overlap was part of their cosmology. So if they saw a vision, a visitor, or a gift from the gods, they wouldn't necessarily question it as technology. They would record it, depict it, and ritualize it. Let's also consider the implications of electromagnetic technology being used in these sacred spaces. Was this for illumination? Was it for vibrational tuning or frequency work in rituals? Or was it for initiatory experiences, light and sound combined to open altered states of consciousness? We still don't know. But here's what can't be ignored. This carving exists. It looks like a light bulb. It functions like a light bulb, according to electrical engineers who have built working models from the relief. And it was hidden in a sacred space, never meant to be seen casually. Which raises the real question. Did the ancients symbolize technology? Or did they simply record what they saw? Because the people who showed it to them weren't gods. They were travelers. The ancient Greek laptop, the grave stele of a woman, 100 BC, taking a closer look at an ancient funerary relief that may not be as ancient in concept as scholars once believed. Located at the J. Paul Getty Museum in Los Angeles, this artifact has become one of the most widely circulated, debated, and quietly suppressed pieces of evidence in the argument for ancient technological foresight. The piece is called The Grave Naiskos of an Enthroned Woman with an Attendant, dating to approximately 100 BC from the Hellenistic period of ancient Greece. The marble stele, like many Greek funerary sculptures, is meant to honor the deceased in a peaceful domestic scene. But this one scene doesn't behave like the others. Here's what it shows. A seated woman in a relaxed, regal posture. An attendant or servant girl standing beside her, slightly bent, pointing to something in the woman's lap. The woman holds a thin, rectangular object, open like a clamshell, which the museum identifies as a shallow chest or a writing tablet. That's the official explanation. But to modern viewers, especially those raised in the era of laptops and tablets, this object looks exactly like a slim, hinged portable computer. The depth is accurate. The curvature is sleek. There's even what appears to be a port or input hole in the side. And the posture of the figures mimics how we interact with screens today. So is it just modern projection? Or are we recognizing something that was always there, waiting for the collective eye to catch up? Let's explore. The wax tablet theory. Does it hold up? Historians claim the object is a diptych, two wax-covered wooden panels bound with a hinge, used for inscribing short messages with a stylus. These were indeed used in Greece and Rome for practical communication. But there are problems with this explanation. Most diptychs were smaller and held with one hand, not rested wide open across the lap. Wax tablets were generally flat and closed when not in use. They were not displayed ceremonially. The servant's gesture, pointing toward the center of the screen, doesn't match typical stylus use. It mimics modern screen interaction more than it does inscription. The hinge design looks unusually sleek, more like a clamshell computer than rough-cut wood. Finally, why depict a wax tablet at all in a funerary sculpture, especially with such prominence? Wax tablets weren't sacred. They weren't associated with death or transition. If anything, they were mundane. But this object is held with reverence and shown with intentional attention, which raises the deeper question: was this a memory of future tech? There's a growing theory in the metaphysical and alternative archaeology communities that certain technologies are archetypal. They emerge across time, not because we evolved toward them, but because they've already existed in past cycles. What we call invention might actually be recovery, a kind of recursive echo. In this reading, the woman on the stele isn't holding a writing tablet. She's holding a device of memory, a symbolic object for access to stored knowledge, guidance, or communication across distances. In other words, a portal to another layer of experience. And perhaps that's what made it important enough to carve into her grave. Let's remember that in many esoteric traditions, the afterlife is not a place, but a state of knowledge. To cross over, one must access the self fully, like reviewing a cosmic logbook of memory. If this woman was a priestess, oracle, or educated figure, the object she holds may not be technological in a mechanical sense, but symbolic of advanced consciousness tools that mirror exactly what we call technology today. After all, what is a laptop? It's a portal to information, communication, memory, projection, and creation. And maybe that's why we recognize it so clearly in stone. The broader implication: this isn't about one artifact. It's about the fact that this isn't isolated. We see it again and again in art. Clamshell boxes with unexplained hinges, mirrors, held up to the face like selfie cameras, symbols that look like antennas, styluses, or data pads. These things weren't called laptops because the words didn't exist, but the forms did. And if ancient peoples encountered even fragments of advanced tech, or if their spiritual experiences overlapped with what we now call digital realities, they would have recorded them, just not in code, in stone. So let's reframe the question. Maybe this isn't a prophecy of the future. Maybe the future was already here. And what we see on the grave stele of the enthroned woman isn't an anomaly. It's a reminder that time doesn't just repeat. Sometimes it leaves instructions behind. The ancient handbag symbol, the cross-civilizational toolkit of the gods. Next, let's examine a symbol so subtle that most people overlook it, and yet so globally persistent, its presence across unrelated civilizations can no longer be dismissed as coincidence. The item? A simple handbag-shaped object, the kind you'd carry every day without a second thought. But in ancient stonework, this bag isn't casual. It's always sacred, always held with intention. And always in the hands of beings that are described as gods, creators, or interdimensional guides. This is the anomaly known as the bag of the gods, and once you start noticing it, it's everywhere. Where it appears, an impossible pattern. You'll find this handbag in Sumerian carvings, clutched by the Anunnaki, the supposed sky gods or architects of humanity, often shown alongside the pine cone of DNA or life force activation. In Mayan and Olmec bas-reliefs, held by deified rulers mid-ritual, as they interface with serpents, stars, or underworld beings. In Egyptian temple carvings, it appears beside Thoth, Osiris, and other cosmic figures during acts of weighing souls or measuring resonance. Even in Göbekli Tepe, one of the oldest known human temples, dated at over 11,000 years old, you find 3 identical handbag shapes carved above anthropomorphic figures. Let's pause. These cultures didn't speak the same language. They weren't trading art styles. They weren't sharing myths. And yet they carved the same object with the same reverence, always in scenes connected to divine knowledge, planetary seeding, initiation, time cycles, afterlife transition. That's not cultural coincidence. That's a temporal breadcrumb. What could be inside? Scholars have suggested it's a simple bucket for incense, that it held pollen, water, or ritual items. But this fails to explain the exact same proportions across continents and millennia. The fact that it's held in the same way, never slung, always gripped at the top handle, that it is always paired with esoteric symbols, pine cones, winged discs, serpents, stars, or sacred trees, that in no depiction is it used for pouring, holding grain, or interacting with physical space. It is not a tool. It is not a prop. It is a container of significance. So what could it actually represent? Theory 1, a genetic codex or seed kit. In the Sumerian panels, the bag is often shown next to a pine cone, the symbol of the pineal gland, or more literally, a representation of DNA spirals. Some theorists suggest this was a portable genetic toolkit, instructions, samples, or biomapping equipment brought by non-human entities who helped jumpstart or modify human DNA. In this interpretation, the bag is biotechnology, carried by those with the authority to create or alter species. Theory 2, a frequency modulator or energy device. In Mesopotamian scenes, these beings are often shown facing sacred trees or celestial star charts. The bags, in this case, could be tools of energetic calibration, devices used to resonate with planetary frequencies, stabilize atmospheric conditions, or create psychic alignment with cosmic events. In other words, tools for tuning time and space. Theory 3, a data archive or portable knowledge container. A more esoteric take. The handbag is a literal archive of memory, a quantum drive containing planetary records, civilization's history, or spiritual codes passed down or protected between cycles. This aligns with what ancient cultures call the tablets of destiny, the Akashic records, or the book of life. If that sounds far-fetched, consider what a modern hard drive looks like to someone in 1000 BC, a shiny box that holds voices, visions, and lifetimes. So what happens when something like that survives a time cycle? It becomes myth, it becomes sacred, and eventually, it becomes a symbol carved into stone. Who were the bag holders? This might be the most important question of all, because in every case, the beings holding these bags are tall, often with elongated skulls or disproportionate limbs, wearing hybrid animal-human features, Anubis, eagle-headed figures, feathered serpents, depicted as descending from above or interfacing between realms, and always shown bestowing knowledge, life force, or power to humanity. These are not kings. They are architects, messengers, gatekeepers. So who were they? Were they time travelers? Interdimensional guides? Survivors from a previous technological age? Or were they the last carriers of knowledge from a pre-reset Earth, embedding the tools they used so that future generations would one day remember? Because here's the hidden pattern. They didn't just carry the bag, they passed it on. They are always in transition, approaching, handing, initiating. It's not just a symbol of power, it's a handoff. So, what's in the bag? We may never know. But maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe the bag wasn't meant to be opened in the physical world. Maybe it's a metaphor for a downloaded memory, encoded through myth and reawakened only when we evolve enough to recognize what it means. And maybe the reason it appears all over Earth, spanning ages, cultures, and oceans, is because whoever they weren't just traveling through land. They were traveling through time. They left something behind. Welcome back. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and this is the Manifestation series, where we don't just talk about manifesting, we master it. Because let's be honest, manifestation has been watered down, reduced to vague quotes, mood boards, and empty promises. But you didn't come here to wish. You came here to build a reality that hits different. A reality that responds to your frequency, your language, your alignment, and your decision to stop playing small. This series is not fluff. It's physics, frequency, and fierce creative power. Inside the Manifestation series, you're going to learn how to collapse timelines, shift identities, and speak worlds into existence, just like the greatest minds in history. This isn't just about being positive. This is about being powerful. Here's what you unlock inside. Vision to Reality, the Vision Board course. You've heard about vision boards, but you've never done them like this. This is a full energetic ritual, a precision-coded map for your subconscious, designed to bridge image, frequency, and strategy. It's not arts and crafts, it's blueprinting your future in visual form and turning it into matter. Time, quantum timelines, and why time isn't real. Manifestation doesn't take time, it takes alignment. In this module, I'll show you how time is just a mirror of energy and how to collapse timelines using choice, clarity, and vibration. Past, present, future, they're happening now. And when you know how to navigate time quantum style, you stop waiting and start receiving. Quantum jumping, instantly up level. Your next level life isn't years away. It's one decision away. In this training, you'll learn how to quantum jump, how to shift into a version of you that already has what you desire. This isn't fantasy. It's how high-performance creators, athletes, and spiritual masters leap beyond limits. Jump now. Land in power. Every word. The power of affirmations and spoken language. Words build worlds. In this course, I show you how to use affirmations like spell work, not just repeating empty mantras, but speaking with vibration, intention, and spiritual force. If you've ever felt like affirmations don't work, this will change everything. You'll learn to command your field, not just request from it. The greats, learning from the most exceptional minds in history. We're not the first to master this. In this legendary module, we decode the techniques, habits, and quantum genius of the world's most powerful manifestors, from ancient sages to modern icons. You'll learn how to think like the greats, move like the greats, and manifest like the greats. This isn't another feel-good series. This is a spiritual weapon, disguised as a manifestation course. It's made for leaders, cycle breakers, visionaries, and soul builders. You don't need another wish list. You need a system that teaches you how to bend reality. This is that system. So if you're ready to stop playing with potential and start creating results, welcome to your next level. The Manifestation series is open now. You know what to do. Let's build what they said was impossible and make it inevitable.